An inaugural address my take on it was that it had more of a vibe of a State of the Union address than an inaugural address, I think in part because it was indoors. And that made it sort of feel like he was addressing a joint session of Congress, even though he wasn't, even though this was an inaugural address. President Trump spoke in his sort of trademark low monotone, gave his list of grievances. Among his grievances this time was an assertion that there was not even a token effort made to fight the Los Angeles fires, which was a very unusual assertion. If this inaugural address is remembered, I think, as a signal of what's to come, it may be the part where he said, "We're taking it back," when talking about the Panama Canal. He pledged to be a president of peace and to not start any new wars, but did also pledge to forcibly take another country's territory. While President Trump was speaking, a relatively large group of Proud Boys, the pro-Trump armed paramilitary group, marched in full colors in their trademark black and gold in downtown Washington to the Capital One Arena. Just before the inaugural address, just before the swearing in, outgoing President Biden issued pardons to members of his family, noting that while they had done nothing wrong, he believed the threats and promises of politicized persecution of people who the new president has decided are his enemies warranted what President Biden would have otherwise never considered doing.
You know, I can't wrap my mind around why they're hemorrhaging viewers. But why on earth would MSNBC's ratings be collapsing the way they are? They've lost half their audience since November 5th. Why, when you can tune into such profoundly insightful analysis like that from Mark Cuban, no less? I mean, come on, man. Those were some golden insights. I mean, that was some fascinating stuff. Sounded like a State of the Union address because it was inside. Sounded like it was an address that you would deliver inside. What can I say? I mean, the liberal media is officially melting down. They're going through a cataclysmic existential crisis as they see their entire world being dismantled more and more every hour of every passing day. And it hasn't even been a week yet. I mean, think about it. Think about where we were last week at this time. It wasn't exactly a week ago. It was 8 days ago that Biden was delivering his dithering farewell address. That was just days ago. Just think how much the world has changed in a mere matter of days. And in many respects, Trump hasn't even gotten started yet. And so it's obvious the legacy media is in a full-blown nervous freaking breakdown right now, watching their woke world that they and bumbling Biden worked so hard to bring about collapse right before their very eyes. And we got some awesome highlights of these temper tantrums. Here is one of my favorites. Here is Congressman Tim Burchett ending the career of Jim Acosta of CNN on live TV. Check this out.
The White House covering the first Trump administration when they had rioting outside of the White House. I mean, that was covered on CNN. What you're saying, this is not Fox, Congressman. You can't just spin a tail and pull the wool over people's eyes. Yeah. This is CNN. This is the news. We are asking you to come on and tell the truth.
And that's why more people are watching the Cartoon Network SpongeBob reruns right now, Jim. Look, I left the White House during a riot. My life was threatened. My life has been threatened within the last few weeks, yet there's no coverage of that. And you all continue this narrative of attacking Trump. You just can't stand the fact that he won and that America spoke.
Congressman,
and that your view is very diminished.
That's not the case at all.
And your view is very diminished.
Your view is very diminished. So diminished that more people are watching the Cartoon Network and SpongeBob reruns than you, Jim. That's the one that hit me the most. SpongeBob freaking reruns. And he's not lying. That's not even remotely an exaggeration. In fact, you're going to love this. Fox News, you know, that news network that Acosta accused of peddling fake news. Fox News report on the fact that CNN viewership actually drops 30% whenever Jim Acosta is on air. I mean, you cannot make this stuff up. At the time of the news story, when did this come out? I think this came out in 2021, 2022. CNN was averaging 1.1 million viewers on Saturdays. By the way, they would beg to have that many viewers on a Saturday today. But regardless, even back then, when they were averaging 1.1 million views on a Saturday, whenever Acosta's program came on over the weekend, that number dropped by 30%. He was barely getting 700,000 views. I can't even imagine what it is now, since it's dropped 90% since the time that Fox covered this story. So CNN actually loses whatever little audience they have whenever this guy Acosta shows up with his smug little face on screen. So it's no wonder that CNN is this week. How's that for irony? This week, CNN is laying off hundreds of workers. These layoffs are coming as CNN is absolutely struggling with their ratings, basically running on fumes at this point. The little money they get from cable subscriptions, they're a disaster in terms of the key demographic for advertisers, the 18 to 34 demographic. I mean, disaster doesn't even really begin to describe it. Oh, and I should say about that notion that CNN is all about the real news. We only do news here on CNN. Take a look at this.
Congressman, you can't just spin a tail and pull the wool over people's eyes.
Yeah.
This is CNN. This is the news. We are asking you to come on and tell the truth. It's an alarming choice for a man who has often struggled to unequivocally denounce white supremacists. You recall these moments.
But you also had people that were very fine people on both sides.
Those words have power. They have meaning. And when Donald Trump speaks, the world listens. Neo-Nazis and white supremacists certainly listen. So why can't he denounce them? Why can't he reject their support?
And you had people, and I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, because they should be condemned totally.
What's your response to Donald Trump saying she should be fired, that Liz Cheney should be fired upon? He keeps speaking in these very extreme terms about the potential dangers to the country if he doesn't win in November. He's used words like bloodbath.
I mean, this is what is so inescapable for the legacy media. They are fake news. They are misinformation. I mean, we could go on and on. Think about it. They told us that Trump colluded with Russia. They told us Vladimir Putin stole the 2016 election. They pushed Hillary Clinton election interference. They told us that Jussie Smollett was the victim of a race crime. They told us that Brett Kavanaugh was a rapist, that the COVID lab leak theory was some nutty conspiracy theory. They told us border agents on horseback ran around whipping migrants, that the Covington Catholic school kids mocked and ridiculed a poor, maligned, peaceful Native American simply banging on his drum mat and minding his own business, that Trump had built cages for migrant kids and recommended that people drink bleach to cure COVID, that Kyle Rittenhouse was a white supremacist, and of course, the granddaddy of them all, that the Hunter Biden laptop was nothing more than Russian disinformation. Yeah, that was CNN. That was MSNBC. That was the New York Times, the Washington Post, ABC, NBC, CBS, PBS, all of them. The legacy media is fake news. They push narrative, not news. All of their so-called news is always manipulated to fit within a far-left, woke Democrat narrative. Here is the ultra-repulsive Ana Navarro on The View. She even took poor old Snoop Dogg to task, right? The rap star Snoop Dogg, he was DJing one of Trump's balls across D.C., and here is what this borderline illiterate on The View had to say about that.
The thing that really, I think, was spotlighting Snoop is because of the things that Snoop Dogg said 10 days before the inaugural in 2017. And so, look, if if you opposed and stood up against Trump in 2017, but you were there now, if you spoke up against Trump January 7th, 2021, but you were there now applauding him like a trained seal, Donald Trump has not changed. You've changed.
Yeah.
Speaking of trained seals, now what's so hilarious here is that it doesn't even occur to a tiny little brain that people have changed their opinion about Trump because they stopped believing, frankly, all the bull that clowns like Ana Navarro peddle on a daily basis to their dwindling audience of their own clapping seals. That's the testimony that you hear time and time again from all the people that have joined the Trump train over the last year, like Nicole Shanahan, right? RFK's former VP. She came out and bluntly said, I stopped believing the bullshit, the very bullshit that Ana Navarro and all the illiterates at The View peddle every single day. And then, not to be outdone, PBS, as you all know, I'm sure by now, they actually pushed the utter absurdity that Elon Musk made a Nazi salute at a Trump rally. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. I mean, look, it obviously didn't take long to amass the exact same gesture made by liberal icons over the years. I mean, even, you take a look at that. I forget who it was who said it. Somebody put up a post that said, X is where the legacy media's lies go to die. And I think that's pretty good. Even the woke darling Taylor Swift was found to have joined the Nazi cult, as it were. Oh, no, there it is. Taylor, too. Oh, Taylor. Oh, what's this world coming to? Now, what's so sad here with this PBS nonsense is how it demonstrates how utterly bankrupt their thinking has become. And again, I'm not being hyperbolic here. We were just talking on how the woke mind virus kills the moral imagination, particularly creativity. It stifles the imagination and kills creativity, and it kills creativity because wokeness is inherently censorious. So by its nature, it censors and prohibits certain forms of thought. So again, this is what Jordan Peterson has long argued in relation to freedom of speech, right? So his concern is freedom of speech is inextricably linked to freedom of thought. Freedom of speech is inextricably linked to freedom of thought. There's essentially no difference between speech and thought, precisely because so much of our thought is organized verbally. And this is so profound because it's not merely the notion that what we think is expressed in words, but rather we actually think in terms of words. Words constitute our thoughts. We're always asking ourselves questions all the time. And we do so to actually get answers from our own consciences. And so if that's true, then what woke cancel culture has actually been trying to do in the relentless stifling of our speech is that they're actually trying to stifle our thoughts. That's why we call it the woke mind virus, right? It's the woke mind virus because all of the attempts to silence free speech are ultimately attempts at silencing what Orwell would call wrongthink. And the irony here with what we're seeing in this dribble from PBS as well as all the other mindless woke legacy media outlets is that the only thought that has been demonstrably stifled and impeded is their own. They're absolutely incapable of thinking beyond a few demeaning tropes designed to dismiss rather than discuss or dialogue with ideas their woke sentiments find offensive. So the only thinking that has been demonstrably diminished is their own. Speaking of, here is Jen Circleback Psaki of MSNBC, still trying to discover for herself the otherwise common practice of making sense.
We're not living in normal times, as we've been discussing for 3 hours, but I think it's important to remind everybody that in normal times, the inaugural address is actually not political at all. I mean, it is the result of a political outcome of an election, but it is typically a president of either party discussing where the country is now and where it needs to go moving forward. It doesn't mean you're not discussing challenges. That's a part of it. You're discussing opportunities. But what struck me about this address was it was not just politicized. It was very personal. And there were a couple of things that I highlighted for myself. I mean, when he said, I've been tested and challenged more than any president in our 250-year history, and I've learned a lot along the way. I think we would all disagree with that characterization, with this worth discussing. I was saved by God to make America great again. Never again will immense power of the state be weaponized to persecute political opponents, something I know something about. Typically, a president is not discussing themselves, even though they won. The country elected them. They are discussing the country they are about to govern. And that struck me. The last thing I would say, just to build off of what Nicole said, is, of course, there are always crises going on in the country. The border is broken. It has been broken for some time. But border apprehensions are down. He talked about crime. Crime in major cities is down. He also talked about oil production. The climate is in crisis. Meanwhile, the country, the United States, produced the largest amount of crude oil than any other country in the world last year. So that also struck me as him projecting upon us crises that are maybe not the right definition of the crises we're actually facing.
Hey, gang, you know we look out for each other here on this channel, and your health is our #1 priority. So if you're one of the 100 million Americans struggling with all the weight gain and loss of energy that comes with a fatty liver, you've got to try Liver Health Formula. It's an all-natural supplement. It contains 12 clinically proven botanicals that help recharge and protect your liver. It's manufactured right here in the USA, and it's approved by independent American doctors. And if you click on that link below right now, you could try Liver Health Formula and receive a free bottle of blood sugar formula when you order today. So don't let a fatty liver keep you sluggish and inactive. Click on that link below right now or go to getliverhelp.com/Turley and claim your free bonus gift. That's getliverhelp.com/Turley. Ooh, that's Jen getting a little political there, don't you think? So that's Jen Psaki claiming that inaugural addresses are not supposed to be political, even though they bookmark the peaceful transference of political power as a result of a political election between two political parties. And then she went on to politically critique a speech that wasn't supposed to have anything to do with politics. So she denounced the political nature of the speech while politically critiquing it. I guess we'll just have to circle back on that one. Let's go back to CNN. We just got a couple more here. Here's Jake Tapper freaking out over how big tech is now kissing the ring of Donald J. Trump.
Yeah, if I could just, before I throw it to Anderson, just bring back that photograph of the tech bros inside St. John's Church. It's just one other thing I want to show. So we see Mark Zuckerberg on the left there with the curly hair, CEO of Meta. Tim Cook, his face is blocked, but he has the white hair, CEO of Apple. Jeff Bezos on the right there, the bald gentleman looking to his right, CEO of Amazon. The gentleman behind Mark Zuckerberg is Sundar Pichai. He's the CEO of Google. And Anderson, between those four people, plus Elon Musk from Twitter or X, those five people that I just mentioned, the four in the photograph and also Elon Musk, control so much of the information that we receive. So much is in their hands when it comes to ascertaining, monitoring, or refusing to monitor what is real, what is not real. And we're about to enter an era of deep fakes and all sorts of misinformation. And the degree to which those five gentlemen play a role or do not play a role will be pivotal in terms of where the American people are 4 years from now, in terms of understanding what is true and what is false.
You're also you said we, you're not just talking about we, the United States. You're talking about the world. Mm-hmm. All human beings on the planet. They control access to information. They're the gatekeepers in many ways to information for the entire planet. Van, you had some thoughts seeing that picture of all of them.
Look, I mean.
Yeah, how is that any different on 11 a.m. Monday morning? I mean, isn't it interesting? You'll notice that there was no comparable concern when these same big tech oligarchs were bending over backwards to appease the Biden administration and the FBI. Isn't that interesting? Jake Tapper didn't so much as bat an eye when big tech was colluding with the deep state to suppress breaking stories like the Hunter Biden laptop back in October 2020. And that's probably because CNN was a co-participant in that collusion. I mean, it's so fascinating how totally incapable these legacy media pundits are of reading the room, of discerning the times, as it were. He's right. We are entering into an era of what's known as big data, data that was once controlled and monopolized by the legacy media industry is being replaced with big data, which involves a radically decentralized and democratized process of data dissemination that completely bypasses the control of the legacy media. And while this world of big data has its own problems, for sure, there's no putting the genie back into the bottle. I mean, Jake Tapper can whine and complain and bellyache about it all he wants. Big data is only going to grow. And as he rightly noted, its growth spans the entire planet. The days of CNN or MSNBC controlling the news narrative are over. They can no more control what's news today than the old post office can control what's communicative. Here's one more from CNN. This is a CNN Democrat trying to come up with a coherent explanation as to why Biden's pardons aren't as bad as Trump's.
I think we should to separate the pardons that are happening today. So the reason why Joe Biden pardoned the January 6th committee and other Milley and Fauci is because Donald Trump, you're right, he ran and people elected him. He said he was going to seek retribution. Now, retribution is not a part of the Constitution, right? So we put those in place. I think it's unfortunate that he pardoned his family today. I am a Democrat. I think that it does cloud what he did so I think you should bifurcate those two. And then I think the pardons for January 6th are completely different. The reason why today feels so abnormal is because of what happened last year or 4 years ago on January 6th, something that none of us in our lifetime have ever seen. So on your day one, when you talked about, not you, Sir Michael, but Donald Trump talks about lowering the cost of eggs, what you do is you let people out who undermined our Constitution, who undermined the election, who undermined people who felt like their life was not better under Donald Trump in 2020. They felt like they wanted a different 4 years, and that's why they elected Joe Biden. So I want to put those pardons in separate buckets, and I think we should be talking about them differently because they are not all pardons are not created equal, in my opinion.
All pardons are not created equal. So there you have it. Biden's pardons aren't as bad as Trump's pardons because Trump is bad. Biden had to pardon his family. Forget the fact that they're as crooked as the day is long. Just ask any lawyer here in Wilmington, Delaware. The stories I've heard, guy, they will just, well, anyway, forget the fact that Biden basically just covered up for his crime family. Nope. Trump promised retribution, and retribution, as we all know, isn't in the Constitution. But covering up for your crime family apparently is. Well, when all is said and done, gang, their days are over. The world is passing the legacy media by, like we talk about constantly on this channel. We're entering into what's called a new techno-populist age, where internet technologies are emancipating us from dependence on the old liberal industries like the legacy media, an emancipation which in turn is ushering in a new politics, a populist politics that's quickly leaving the old, outdated, liberal legacy media far, far behind.